Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is activity 11 out of the Neo blockchain quick start guide for .NET developers, and it'll show you how to do rapid edit, compile, debug cycles during the development of your C#.neo smart contracts. In terms of the setup of your environment, it assumes that you followed the previous activities 0 through 10 as documented in the Neo Blockchain Quick Start Guide for developers. And in particular, this activity makes the following assumptions. One is that the Visual Studio 2017 Community Edition has been installed. The Neo contract plugin, the Visual Studio extension, has also been installed. That the Neo compiler, the debugger version of neon.exe, is installed in this path. That the Neo debugger itself is installed in this path. And that the Neo compiler, the regular non-debugger version, is part of your search path environment variable. If you're using different paths for these executable files, you just need to make adjustments in terms of what I'm going to show you. After the tutorial, if for further reference, you can go to the Neo Blockchain C# Developers Center of Excellence, and if you scroll down through the home page for the Center of Excellence and go to the .NET Quick Start Guide and click on that, and go down to the English version, and finally go down to section 11, the quick cycle edit compile debugging of C#.neo smart contracts, you'll find the screen by screen description of what I'm going to show you now. So let's open up Visual Studio. So here I have Visual Studio 2017 Community Edition open. I've already installed the Neo Contract plugin. To give you an idea of the fast cycling that we're trying to do, I'm going to start by just creating a traditional Windows console app. So new project, console application. We're going to put this into our .NET Quick Start Examples folder. You can place it wherever you want. I'm going to call this MPC MW Herman 2000 dot quick cycle dot client. Again, the naming that you choose can be whatever works for you. Abbreviate the solution. And we'll make this a simple hello world app. Console dot write line hello world. So this is just plain old .NET console app, and you want to be able to click start. Maybe we should put a console.readline after that so we can see what's happening. And we want to be able to click start, have that automatically go into the debugger. There's hello world. You know, we might want to put a breakpoint in it. And so what we want is exactly the same behavior when we're debugging smart contracts. So let's look at how we do that. So let's just take that same solution and let's add a smart contract project to that. So new project, go down here towards the bottom. Neo contract. So we're going to call this npc dot MW Herman 2000 dot quick cycle dot contract. Click OK. So we want to make this our default project. That's the first step we need to do. So set as startup project. And we've got our default hello world smart contract here that we're going to use. Let's just quickly rebuild that to resolve all of these references. So that's all good. And we can see down here at the bottom that we've created our AVM file. So what is it that we need to do to enable the start button here to automatically build what we need to build and automatically invoke the debugger? So we go to the properties, right click on the properties, and there's two settings we need to update. One is the build events setting, and I've got a little file here that's going to help me out. So what I need to do here for the build events is I need to run the debugger version of the compiler. So I'm going to take those lines and I'm just going to put them down here as post build events. So post build events are a series of commands that are run after the regular compilation sequence happens within Visual Studio. So that's the first thing we need to do. By setting this path, we're saying don't take the default version of neon.exe, the one that's in our search path, but take this particular one, the one that's in the Debugger Tools folder. Again, if you've used a different folder in terms of where you've downloaded those projects and where you've built those debugger tools, then use that path here. The other thing, so that's going to cause the right types of files and information to be created at compile time, and then this is what's executed when we actually click the start button. So what we want to do here is we want to say we want to start an external program, and the external program we want to start is the debugger. So put that in here. And then the other thing we need to do is we need to provide the arguments to the debugger. So the arguments are going to be whatever the name of your AVM file is. So the AVM file is always the same as your project name. So let's just put this in here, .avm. And we can close that off. So again, we've updated we're saying we want to run the external program, the debugger, whenever we click start, and we want to pass in that argument. By default, the current directory when this runs will be bin debug, so we don't have to specify any more details than that. And similarly here, when we're doing the compile during the build process, we're going to run neon.exe out of this new updated path, and target path is the fully qualified name of the DLL for this project. So we just want to close that off. Now if we just go in here and say rebuild, we're going to get about 90% of what we need. And if we just scroll this up a bit and look in what we have here, we actually see that there's two compilers being run. One is the post-build event, the one that has the debugger support, and it's creating the files that we need for debugging. But we also see that the regular compiler has also been run, and that's an artifact of how the Neo Smart Contract extension was designed in terms of its integration with Visual Studio. So we need to actually remove this second one, and that's the only kind of ugly part of this whole process. So what we're going to do is right click on the project name, and we want to open it in Windows Explorer. And what we're actually going to edit, and you can have quite a bit of confidence about this, we're actually going to edit the CS project file. Now I suggest that you use something other than Visual Studio. I tend to use Visual Studio Code quite a bit. So we're going to go in and we're going to edit that project file. And we're going to go down here, and near the bottom there's this last target, and this is like a post build instructions, and this is what is provided in the Neo Smart Contract extension. So we're just going to delete that like that, and we're going to close. This is a mistake I make quite often. Whenever you close Visual Studio Code without saving the file, it'll actually keep the file in an edited but unsaved state. So always make sure, if you're using Visual Studio Code, to actually save it. So I just did a Control S to save that out there. So now when I go back In Visual Studio, it's going to, hey, say, oh, something's changed here. The project file has been updated. Just reload that project file. It's not going to change anything here other than the fact it's not going to run that second post-build event. So now if I go in here and say rebuild, we'll see that only the one copy of the debugger is run. One copy of the compiler is run. And now I can just say, I want to debug my smart contract. So I click Start, and it'll go through a rebuild, and it's going to launch, and there we are. We have our smart contract running in the debugger. If you press F10, you can single step. If you press F5, it'll execute it all the way through. So let's go through that edit, compile, debug cycle once more in a little more detail. So let's change Hello World to Hello Neo Explorers. So Neo Explorers. And we click Start. That recompiles our contract automatically, launches the debugger. We can press F10. We get the dialog here. Now our main function doesn't require any parameters, so this becomes very simple. We just click Debug. We can go F10, 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 and we're done. And there we can say that this cost 1 gas, and that's primarily because it's a storage.put. And in 17 opcodes actually is what it's referring to there. And if we go up here and look at storage, we can see that we've put in hello, and that would be the binary representation for Neo Explorers. And we can close that. If we wanted to change it again, put some excellent, and then we just click Start. Press F10 to go through it again. Look at storage again. And we've replaced it.